I believe in putting the horror in the mind of the audience and not necessarily on the screen. I once made a movie, rather tongue-in-cheek, called Psycho.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of people looked at this thing and said, what a dreadful thing to do, how awful, and so forth. But of course, it was, to me, it had great elements of the cinema in it. The content as such was, I felt, rather amusing. And it was a big joke, you know. And I was horrified to find that some people took it seriously. It was intended to cause people to scream and yell and so forth, but no more than the screaming and yelling on the Switchback Railway. Now, this film had a horrible scene at the beginning of a girl being murdered in a shower.
Yeah.
Well, I deliberately made that pretty rough. But as the film developed, I put less and less physical horror into it because I was leaving that in the mind of the audience. And as the film went on, there was less and less violence, but the tension in the mind of the viewer was increased considerably. I was transferring it from film into their minds. So towards the end, I had no violence at all. But the audience by this time was screaming in agony. Thank goodness.
You mentioned a switchback railway. You do see yourself as a kind of switchback railway operator.
Well, I'm possibly, in some respects, the man who says, in constructing it, how steep can we make the first dip? And this will make them scream. If you make the dip too deep, the screams will continue as the whole car goes over the edge and destroys everyone. But therefore, you mustn't go too far, because you do want them to get off the Switchback Railway giggling with pleasure, like the woman who comes out of the movie, the very sentimental movie, and says, oh, I had a good cry.
What is a good cry as opposed to a bad cry? Ask your own question.
Well, I think it's the satisfaction of temporary pain. And that's the same thing when people endure the agonies of a suspense film. When it's all over, they're relieved. That's why I once committed a grave error in having a bomb from which I'd extracted a great deal of suspense. And I had the thing go off, which I should never have done, because they needed the relief from their suspense. Clock going, the time for the bomb to go off is such a time, and I drew this thing out and attenuated the whole business. Then somebody should say, oh my goodness, look, there's a bomb. Pick it up, throw it out the window, bang! But everybody's relieved. Yeah. Well, I made the mistake. I let the bomb go off and kill someone. Bad technique. Never repeated it.
Bad technique, yes. Mind you, it perhaps came nearer reality, because bombs do go off.
Probably true. After all, you know, what is reality? I don't think many people want reality. I think whether it's in the theatre or in films, I think it must look real, but it never must be. Because reality is something none of us can really stand at any time. Where sometimes one gets into little difficulties with the American people is that they want everything spelled out, you know, exactly, and they worry about content. I don't care about content at all. The film can be about anything you like, so long as I'm making that audience react in a certain way to whatever I put on the screen. And if you begin to worry about the details of what are the papers about that the spies are trying to steal, well, that's a lot of I can't be bothered with what the papers are, what the spies are after. In Kipling's day, it was the plans of the fort. Well, how can you bring out the plans of the fort? Do you want the public to measure them or something? And so the content per se. And I often run afoul of critics who criticize content instead of the technique.